Welcome to the Dennis Report. I'm Dennis Atchison. Sometimes in a small province with a small population, people attain a level of excellence that reaches the international scale. Today's guest is someone who has reached the highest level in her sport, received her professional card over a year ago, and has attained that success by living in New Brunswick and living in Fredericton. Jaclyn Wilson is, believe it or not, a professional athlete living here in Fredericton. She competes as a pro bikini model, and she runs 2 or 3 businesses on her own. Welcome to the show, Jacqueline.
Thanks for having me.
And I stayed short on the intro because there's too many acronyms, so maybe Jacqueline can walk us through. So not long ago, meaning 4 or 5 months ago, we're recording this in September of 2016, Jacqueline competed at the
Australia Bikini Pro event.
Great.
Yeah.
And you finished
11th
in the
world.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it is.
Were you scared?
Actually, I wasn't.
Ah.
I was kind of anxious to see how I would feel, but came to realize it really wasn't any different than anything I've done before. I was on stage with, some women I've already shared the stage with. Mm-hmm. This one just happens to be obviously one of our biggest events as pros to take part in. So yeah, I was just excited to be there.
Great. Sounds like an Olympic athlete. Now I'm excited to be there.
Yeah.
It's good. But I'd like to start off in a totally different direction,
Mm-hmm.
is that you live here
Mm-hmm.
and you're successful here.
Yeah.
So all around you, you may or may not be aware of it, but all around you there's this conversation narrative going on about how young people don't stay in the province. It's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to be successful out of New Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we create the environment that young people want to stay here, work here, and be successful here?
Mm-hmm.
And you're here.
I am.
So can you describe a little bit, it might be an odd sort of question, but what's it like for you to be located here, but
Mm-hmm.
able to compete internationally and run a couple of businesses here?
As far as the businesses go, obviously I do have moments where I feel I'm at a disadvantage being here in New Brunswick, or even in Canada sometimes when it comes to supplies and that type of thing. I have to get a lot shipped in from the US because they're just not available here.
Right. Is that because of population size, we're just not big enough?
I'm really not sure. There are plenty of businesses also making competition suits in Canada, and there are plenty of athletes. For some reason, just the distributors of those supplies aren't here. Yeah, I've almost thought about doing that side of the coin too.
Yeah, because if you find there's a question or a gap, then you can fill the gap.
Yeah.
Do you think there'd be enough to make a go of it in Atlantic Canada?
There might be, sure. There are athletes that also like to do the rhinestoning and decoration of their suits themselves, so could sell directly to those people, not just other businesses. Yeah.
The audience might be thinking, how big would a business like that be? Like how, because they would think of the big box stores and sheer volume coming through, and here's a niche market for what you do, but at the same time, you're making a go of it. So is the scale that to make you successful 1,000 customers, 500 customers, 10,000 customers? Can you give us a sense of proportion?
Well, it really fluctuates depending on the time of year, where our local show happens to be. So for instance, our provincial show is here in Fredericton in November. So late summer, fall is my busiest time.
Okay. Right
because
now.
we draw a lot of New Brunswick athletes, obviously. They're the only ones allowed to compete in it.
Okay. And how many would that be?
I have probably 40 orders right now, and they're still coming in.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like I need to start a wait list.
Yeah.
Because I'm the only person doing all the work.
Yeah.
And when you look at a show that has maybe 180 or 200 people in it, it's a pretty good percentage of the competitors at that one show.
Yep.
And then obviously the goal is to survive. I've had to try to expand a little bit.
Yeah.
So I do have clients that come from maybe Alberta and Ontario and and other places.
It reminds me the potential reminds me a touch of a TV commercial where there's some young IT types that created a product and they're waiting for 2-3 days to sell it online, and they sold one, and then 2 hours later they sold 100, and then 2 hours later they sold 1,000.
Yeah.
You know?
And they're trying to keep up.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, what do we do with that?
Yeah,
You have a background in design though, don't you?
I do. I have a fashion diploma from the New Brunswick College of Craft and Design.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there the summer that I accepted my enrollment offer was the same summer that I did my first competition, which was 2005. So I really didn't know, I didn't go there with the intent of, you know, making competition suits.
Yep.
It just kind of happened, really. I started my studies and kept doing more shows, and then decided to start making my own. And then there was a lack of that here, you know, there wasn't really anyone doing it. So I thought, well, you know, people are asking, I might as well try. And it just took off from there.
Wow.
And as my personal stage success, you know, continued, obviously it helped carry my business along with it. So.
It's almost as if you stumbled into building your own brand.
Yeah, yeah. It was never the intent. It just, yeah, happened.
If this was an IT story, there would be all kinds of natter about a young startup company working at this scale, but it's got an international reach because of your international competition, and then feed it the resources it needs. I'm thinking of Radian 6. You know, they start off on a certain scale. They've got something that's desirable through the market, and then it takes off. It'd be interesting to interview you 2-3 years from now.
Yeah.
To see here's the JW Couture line, and I don't know, where would it go? Would it go into a catalog of some sort? Would it?
I don't know. The thing that I've, you know, obviously contemplated different avenues to kind of expand with, a line of fitness wear or things that relate very closely. But right now, the demand is in the custom pieces, not so much for me any sort of mass-produced or generic sizing. So I don't know, it would be interesting to test that out, but then of course you open up the window of competing with very large companies.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because if you make a high-end quality product, I'm thinking of a story from 10 or 15 years ago. There was a company in PEI who grew the sheep, they sheared the sheep, they treated all the wool, and they made these $400 wool sweaters.
Yeah.
And then LL Bean got a hold of it, and they wanted an order of 10,000, and the company balked at it. They said, no, we'll stick to producing 300 or 400 a year.
Yeah.
Are you?
I can relate to that sentiment, yeah. And maybe it's part of what has made my business successful here in New Brunswick is it's a common thought amongst a lot of people here now, you know, like to support local, and it might cost you a little more, but usually what you get is better in the end, and you know, paying your neighbor is better than paying whoever, you know, who isn't your neighbor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you follow then, as a business person, do you follow any of the machinations of government going through taxation and going through Independent Federation of Business will forever say, you know, reduce the taxes so small business can be successful. Do you have any thoughts in that world different from your production line and distribution?
I can't say that I follow it closely.
Yeah, but it does impact you.
But obviously any help when you're trying to get going, or even, okay, I've had my business for a while, but you know, trying to compete, you know, globally, you still want to have an element of that. It's important to survive. Yeah.
So let me flip the question. Maybe this would be a better frame for it. What would help you? What would help you be competitive on it? Do you have any sense? You know, help me with distribution, or drop taxes down, or don't ding me until I'm at a certain level of sales. Let me get through the learning curve.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, for sure, that is a good point, that not having to pay tax maybe quite as early, like, you know, there's a limit of where you don't have to charge any, and because clients are also trying to save money, so you're trying to kind of meet in the middle where you're making money but helping them as well. and to just attract the client to begin with.
Mhm.
You know, your price point does matter. But what do I need? Help with an employee. I could grow, but right now it's just me doing everything. I'm not quite to the point where I'd feel comfortable in paying for an employee. Yeah, even if it was just seasonal. Yeah, help during busy times.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because then you could meet your demand a bit better and grow that little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
And give work to someone potentially maybe that also graduated from the college or, yeah.
Why I wanted to explore it a little bit, and maybe it's a bit unusual, but I really wanted to get the audience to hear what it's like for you day to day, as best we can, as a young entrepreneur. Mainstream media will pay a lot of attention to the IT world of that. There'll be incubators, there'll be all kinds of incentives, you know, for creating these companies so that they can create IT gadget, widget, product, app. But the same thing applies across the board for farming. It applies for local hardware stores or small businesses that have a retail outlet kind of spot. And for you, who are trying to make a go of it in your own space, in your way. So is there anybody you can, in that incubator mindset, is there any, are you so unique that there is no window for an incubator where they could put 4 or 5 small companies like you with one admin support person handling orders and handling inventory? Does that exist for you?
I never pictured it that way. Like if I pictured growth, it was kind of just under my own title, I guess, or business. Not maybe a meshing of different businesses, but that's not to say that that couldn't happen. I mean, you could have a super complex with the gym in it and with, like, you know, different trainers and then the chiropractor and the massage, and everyone could be in one hub.
Yeah.
And helping each other and, you know, referring clients back and forth, and it could happen, yeah.
That'd be an interesting twist.
Yeah.
Or matched up with some sort of health clinic.
Yeah.
Tied to your other hat that you wear, which is food, because you do counseling or coaching around healthy diet stuff. I know that food is making its way into the conversation around healthcare more and more. So when opening up new healthcare clinics, there's usually a food component to it, which sounded a bit like you saying opening a gym, and it's got these other elements support. So walk us through a little bit your food world.
My food world.
Yeah, because one of your websites, or on your website, is attention to, you have this thing, you do food of the week. Food Friday,
Yeah, on my blog, just, trying to share healthier versions of the treats that we all love, you know, who doesn't love cake and cookies, and and just trying, you know, the best you can to clean up those recipes by maybe taking out refined sugars and replacing it with a natural sugar like honey or even stevia, which is also naturally derived. So just that type of thing, and it should be part of the conversation with our health. It's well known, I believe, that what we eat affects how we feel and everything about us. All the processes in the body, you know, like need food. That's why we have to eat to stay alive, and it's nice that everything. I do believe there is like a movement happening. There is more of a demand for organic food, and people are paying attention more. Like, oh, maybe the takeout isn't my best option. Doesn't mean you never have to eat it. You know, of course they still eat pizza and stuff. It's just trying to pick the better, healthier option more often than you pick something a little worse for you.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point about access.
Yeah.
Past guests on the show have spoken about food in each of their professional perspectives. All of them have in common the issue of access. So as awareness grows, you can go through the local grocery store and you won't be able to find the locally grown organic section because it doesn't exist. So you have to go to other places, extra effort to find it, whether it's farmers markets in the 3 cities, but that's just in mornings 1 day a week. A lot of people grocery shop every other day since they get it fresh and cook it within a day or
Yeah.
two. Do you have you experienced that issue of access, or have you found a way around it? Because when you're coaching other people, you must also guide them to where they can find the
Yeah,
food.
they do ask a lot of questions like that, for sure. I find that in the last maybe 5 years or so, it's not as hard to find anymore. Things that are locally grown. Now, not saying that it's super easy to find either, but there usually is some section in every store that has something that is either organic or non-GMO or local, which is obviously even better to get all three together. But, I do shop a lot at Victory Meat Market. They are a sponsor of mine, so they help me out a lot. And yeah, I know that they do bring in some vegetables and whatnot from around.
A past guest was Levi Lawrence, who runs Real Food Connections.
Okay, yeah.
He identified 3 or 4 years ago the need for the distribution chain.
Yeah.
He found a lot of restaurants wanted to go organic, but they couldn't source it.
Yeah.
Too busy, you know, just don't have time. A lot of farmers wanted to sell more locally, but can't plant 2 rows of carrots when I need to plant 2 fields of carrots.
Yeah.
And Levi found some space between those 2 things to be successful for sourcing.
Yeah, and from what I understand, they're doing well with their business, yeah.
So when you're working with a client talking about food, and you're being so gentle with, you know, it's like, but sometimes they don't need a good smack, you know, to remind, like, this is your body, it's the only one you have, and you change it. But one of New Brunswick's major narratives is our health issues, and if you want to reduce healthcare costs, then why don't you just try to get in shape a little bit?
Yeah.
But a lot of people sort of don't know how.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through it? No names, but just some examples of people who've had a breakthrough and something has shifted for them and they're in a better place that way.
Yeah. The biggest element of making a lifestyle change is being ready to.
Yeah.
I find a lot of people, they know they have to or maybe need to, but they're just not quite ready. And if you're not ready inside to make the commitment, because it's not easy, we are surrounded with temptation and our lives move at such a pace that it's hard to, you know, take the time to maybe cook everything from scratch. But you find your way and you learn tricks like cooking in bulk and that.
Do you have a personal story of a client that, you know, I'm thinking a TV audience might be used to the 600 Pound Life TV show, or one of those ones. There's lots of that now about they start here and they kind of end there.
Yeah.
Do you have a version of someone that you helped and it's one of your best examples, you know?
Nothing extreme like that situation. But you know, I have a few moms. Maybe they've been a mother for a couple years and they work long, hard hours and they just noticed physically that they just didn't feel good. And so then their motivation to change really came from their child. And so they've made quite a difference. And another girl had a few health issues, so she just wanted to try to nip that, you know, in the butt while she could before it got worse because she's young. And
So what would you do to them? Would you make them do exercise? Or you prepackaged food? Like, what's your program?
The program, everything is custom designed for them. So I have written programs for vegans or vegetarians. Nutrition is the heaviest component of it. You know, like how you look and feel. You know, in the industry, we always say, oh, it's 70% of what you eat and like 30% of what you do in the gym. So it just shows that there is really more heavy lean towards the nutrition side. So they get a custom plan based on their current lifestyle, because you can't just throw someone into the deep end, you know, you always want to work up to it. So would start there with that, and then once they kind of get going, then they're able to handle the tighter changes better, and maybe, you know, adding cardio in and some weights in the gym. And I have a few girls who do at-home programs. Well, some weren't comfortable going to the gym, so they wanted to start at home. And several didn't have access to a gym, they live in a very remote place, so
Yep.
write that type of program. Or obviously ones for a gym where they pay a membership and go in. So kind of combining the two sides of the coin, but obviously have your focus on what they eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how much of who we are is what we eat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you have, can you walk us through it? For instance, I'm thinking of Deepak Chopra stuff now, way off on a tangent, but it does connect, right? Because in several of his books, Reinventing the Body, Resurrecting the Soul,
Mm-hmm.
for example, he'll talk about how we have the ability to regenerate ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Our organs are new organs, actually,
Yeah.
different ones, different times, but lungs, 7 or 10 years, liver,
Mm-hmm.
so many years. Skin is constant.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're putting into it is what's going to be
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
at some point in time. Do you integrate that kind of level of awareness rather than I just have to eat for fuel?
Well, okay, for instance, this reminds me of your regenerating idea,
Yeah.
is detoxing.
Okay.
You know, and people, there's this big fad, if you want to say, now of you need to detox and drink all these drinks for 2 weeks or whatever. And I just believe that the body will detox and will do that just simply by not continuing to put in toxic food. That the regeneration of those cells and things cleaning itself will happen on its own. Not that you have to force it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that it's just time.
Yeah.
Yeah, giving it time to do that. And water. Hydration will obviously help everything too. Yeah.
When you were talking a few moments earlier about temptations are all around us,
Mm-hmm.
Even though we get to do this television show and it's a real treat to do the television show, I kind of don't watch much television. And when I do watch some television, I'm amazed at the commercials,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't watch as much anymore, and what they're calling food.
Yeah.
So has that ever struck you, if you
for
watch
sure.
television at all, and
Yeah.
the ads that are running,
Mhm.
and they're advertised as food ads, but they're really not food?
Yeah, for sure. I don't watch a lot of TV either. Netflix, so
Yeah.
no commercials, right?
That's it.
But I've noticed it at the gym if I'm like on the treadmill or something and watching the TV and the commercials for a burger or whatever come on. And it's like, that cheese looks like plastic, or, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and often case it actually is in the photographs and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not even real food. But yeah, it's so strange, and how you can even, I get frustrated because you can drive down Prospect Street here in Fredericton
Yep.
and stop at any number of takeout joints over and over as many times as you want in a day and in a lifetime.
Yeah.
But then we have regulations on tanning and tanning beds, but we don't really have regulations on how many packs of cigarettes you can buy or that. But so I don't know. It's kind of a double standard in a way.
That's a good perspective, though. So, how can we expand on that? How can we make it healthy across the board, not just these things and not those things?
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose it. There was something about access to food, and in the burger things. I know what it was. Wouldn't it be interesting if there was an equal number of ads about good food?
Yeah.
I keep wondering, okay, there's the ad for the burger joint or the milkshake thing,
Yeah.
or the candy. Skittles is all over the map,
Yeah.
I think. So where's the ad for the other stuff?
Yeah.
It's almost like they should, a farmers union or somebody should get together, or an egg marketing board or something. And I know they try to, but make it just as fun and juicy. But
Yeah.
it's about good food, but not. Maybe they should be taking advantage of your profile and do a series of ads with you going, this is good food to eat.
Yeah, there's all kinds of athletes who would stand up behind that in a second. Not even athletes per se, just healthy living individuals, yeah.
That'd be an interesting montage. I could easily
Yeah.
see, 4 or 5
different
different
stories of
celebrity
people,
spokespeople stories. And then, of course, it just gets into that bombing people with more information, and will it really make a difference? Will they really take part, and do that? So you've had to put yourself through some of this in order to compete.
Yeah.
How intense is it? Some of the audience might have a sense of any kind of fitness competition or modeling, bodybuilding competition gets pretty intense the last month because of percentage body fat and all that stuff. So is it a contradiction? Are you hurting your system by doing that stuff?
Well, there are different ways to, you could potentially, there are different ways to get to the end point. Taking it nice and slow, you know, maybe having 3 months to prepare, not gaining a lot of weight in your off season helps. So then you're not fluctuating by like 30 pounds or what have you, would make it healthier. So there is that, and there are always people who will go to the extreme. Not every person who's competing is going to really care about their health. They just care about the day, right?
Yeah. Peak that day.
So you just have to, just pay attention to how you feel. If you're feeling tired, like, why is that? You know, for instance, if I eat too much chicken, I feel really lethargic, and so I just don't digest it that well.
Really?
So I kind of lean towards fish and things that are lighter, and then feel better. So you just kind of have to pay attention and, you know, get good sleep. Yeah.
That almost sounds like what we read about Olympic athletes, where here's when they're running, if you use the 100 meters final as the thing, they're going to run it at 2 o'clock on this day, and then they work their schedule back 4 years. Yeah. Everything geared to at 2 o'clock that day, they're going to hit. So you must do something similar for...
Yep, that's very similar. We have peak week, you know, and then there's, you know, the talk of peaking too early or peaking too late, you know, like...
I want to make a joke about how hard can it be to stand up, you know, do this and this, and peaking, like, what's that?
Well, peaking would be having...
how could you possibly peak too soon when...
Well, when you carb deplete, so when you're not eating a lot of carbs, which helps you get a low body fat, and that your muscles get flat and small. So oftentimes, a lot of competitors will, following the carb depletion, will then carb load so that their muscles will fill back up. And so you want to time that to happen when you're on stage, not to happen, say, the next day. You know, you wake up the day after the show and you're like, oh yeah, like there's my muscles again.
There it is. Yeah.
Or say to load too much and to then spill over. So then everything looks soft and you don't look as tight as you did.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And it makes that much of a difference. So would that be a variation of like 500 calories here or there of a certain type of calorie, and that's enough to blow a competition?
It could be. Women seem to be very sensitive to carbs, and when your body fat isn't being reduced as much as, say, a male bodybuilder, you would react a little differently to those carbs. Usually a competitor who's in a division who's very, very lean could eat quite a bit of carbs to carb load, where I don't actually carb load at all.
No?
Yeah, I've learned in the past that it just doesn't work for me. It's better to just keep everything the same and go on stage just, the way I looked all week.
And that would be specific for your metabolism.
Yeah.
And also to your sport, because there's different categories, right? You're a bikini fitness model, and there's other people. I mean, we'll get into this after the break, but there's different categories which would then get into different training regimes. Maybe this is a good spot for us to stop. We're going to break for some community announcements, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. We're back with Jaclyn Wilson, who's a professional fitness bikini model competitor, as well as an independent business person running 2 different businesses. And when we left off, Jaclyn was, during break, we were just talking about what's it like to be that sort of professional and that sort of competitor, and then getting local media to recognize that you're in the tops in the world. And New Brunswick isn't used to having people that are that way, which is, I don't mean it in a bad way, I mean it in a really good way, but you've come from a small place and you're attaining success at a very high level. So to come back home and try to get some exposure, some stories that they might not catch on that you're a jock ultimately, you know? So you were telling a story of trying to get some stories done, media coverage done before you went away.
Yeah, this was a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
So the landscape has changed a little bit, I would say, since then.
Yeah.
But yes, I had just received my pro card. Very big deal to then enter, you know, the professional league.
So walk us through that, because most people know that like hockey.
Yes.
You know.
I was just
so I'm in the minor leagues, and then I got my pro contract. So something similar.
It would be the equivalent of signing with the hockey league. Yeah.
An NHL club.
Yeah. That would be the equivalent.
Are you a Leafs fan by any chance?
I am not a big hockey fan.
You are a hockey fan?
I'm not a huge hockey fan.
Okay, good. I was going to make a Leafs joke, but we'll leave that for the audience. Okay, so you get your pro card. You qualified.
Yeah. So I was awarded that. Obviously a big deal, especially for the Atlantic Canadian provinces and New Brunswick in particular. There are only 3 of us, I believe, at the moment.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was the first bikini, so my category, professional from Atlantic Canada. There are others now, but at the time, I happened to be the first.
Don't tell me you're the old girl already.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And obviously wanted to share that news and the success, and was kind of met with a little bit of resistance from a newspaper. They didn't want to really cover the story because it's a picture of me in a bikini and, you know, with my blonde hair, smiling with all my makeup on, and just how it can be perceived on first impression, you know, as being not even a sport. That comes up in conversation sometimes. But in the end, we ended up giving it a go, and we got the story, got the front page of the sports section. And
it was their best issue, wasn't it?
I was pleased that at the time they got back in contact with me and said that it had more hits than views than all of the hockey stories
combined.
And so it was just nice to have to fight a little bit for that, and then the community to stand behind it and say, we are interested in knowing about this. And so now they do quite a bit of coverage on every event.
I'm traveling a little light because it's a gentle introduction for the audience into this thing, but it's powerful, and it's very, very important. You know, you're a professional athlete who's competing at a very high level. But the images will be of, you know, you up on stage in front of hundreds, if not more, people with your thong, bikinis, striking certain poses. So I think it would help the audience a whole lot to understand what those poses are about. Because we get it when we do the Arnold thing, you know, everyone will imitate it to a degree. Bikini competition's a different thing. And maybe to set you up a bit, I watched some of your clips on your Facebook, I think, and when one of them you're behind the scenes talking, and you said something about getting your spray-on tan done, done in a certain way so that it showed off shadow or showed off the muscle shape or tone. Of course, I found that bizarre. But because it's just a deep peek inside your guys' world. So can you walk us into that world and what the prep is like, and why you're painted a certain way, and then why you posed a certain way?
Well, every different category has a look that they're going for, and each look is obviously different than the next. So my category, it is to have some level of muscularity, not overdone, a level of leanness where maybe you can see visible abs, but nothing where you start to get veins being visible, so that would kind of be within the context of my category. And they like a little waist, and then having kind of a broad back, and then a big butt.
Muscle.
Basically. Yeah, they want round glutes, high glutes. So my category focuses a lot on that, training legs. I could train legs 2 times a week, 3 times a week during contest prep, just to try to make sure that, you know, as a woman and as you get older, it gets harder to maintain that
Yeah.
or to achieve it. So
You say they look for this, they look for that.
the judges, yes.
Yeah. Where does that standard come from? Is it go back to Greek times? Does it go back to a standard image of the human form?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of Leonardo da Vinci's paintings on the
Yeah,
human
and
body.
the sculptures, and sure, the bodybuilding, the traditional bodybuilding would resemble that look more.
Yes.
And over time, everything has gotten a little more extreme.
Yes.
So the bodybuilders now don't look like those carvings or those paintings.
No.
They're have a really freaky look. They use the word freaky.
Yeah. Well, if
Considered
you
a
look at
compliment.
if you look at wrists and ankles,
Yes.
because you can't put weight on wrists and ankles, so
Right.
you can see the I want to say endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, those three body types.
Yeah.
But back to your thing though, so that ideal type comes from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Do they give you a chart? You know, it says, you know, this size here, this size there, that size there.
The International Federation of Bodybuilding, which is the organization that I compete with, they write kind of the rules for each category. And over time, like my category is fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
When I started competing, it didn't exist, so I competed in what's called figure, where they're a little more muscular, they're a little leaner.
Yep.
Their look is really big upper body, very small lower body.
Okay.
That's not my natural shape.
Yep.
So obviously when they create Bikini, I knew making the switch would be a good place for me.
Yep.
And it worked out, of course, because I'm here today
You're
doing
there.
all of this. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I think over time, as they've created new looks stemming off of kind of the original bodybuilding look, it's been to address all kinds of body types and kind of creating a place for all those people to be able to compete. And because you could consider maybe a male version of what I do, where they wear board shorts.
Okay.
Yeah, but a very aesthetically pleasing to the general public even look overall. Yeah. And the spray tans, I mean,
Yeah.
that's classic bodybuilding, like the dark skin. A lot of people don't realize it's temporary.
Yeah.
We get it airbrushed on us the day before, morning of, and then as soon as we're done, we go back and shower it off.
Yeah.
Take a shower and eat.
And is that to catch the light a certain way? Because
Yeah.
you're up on stage, there's a different intensity in lights, and so it can show the calf muscle definition or the ab definition
Yeah.
of the shoulder.
Hmm. Just to keep you from being washed out, mostly. The stage lights are very bright. You would look like you were glowing if you were up there without the tan on. So it really does help allow, the definition to show despite the bright lights.
Sure, you get a white girl from Canada competing in
the
January,
winter.
boy, you use you for the white balance test on the
Yeah.
TV camera. right?
Basically. My coach is from California, Kim Odo, and he laughs when I send my progress pictures sometimes in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you need to go catch a tan.
Yeah, catch up, girl. That makes me think too of Tom Bergeron's comment at the end of one of the Dancing with the Stars seasons, because he'll rhyme off how many gallons of spray tan that they went
Yeah.
through that year. You know,
Yeah.
I thought, oh goodness. Safety element to that, of course, is because you get it off your body pretty quick. You're not doing any chemical damage to your body.
Yeah, I think it's fairly safe, and a lot of spray tanning formulas now, they've changed from the start. They're better today than they used to be. Similar to what they have developed for in a salon. It's healthier on the skin. Yeah.
Good. So you're a pro athlete. When we think of pro athletes, we think they've signed a contract. They've got a certain obligation to perform so many times, and they get a certain amount of money for it. Does that apply to you as well?
Some of that. The money is not just a given because you become a pro. Unlike a lot of other
Yeah, like a
professional
signing
sports.
bonus, and the big bucks, the NFL, or
Yeah.
you get all kinds of stories about their signing bonus and what their guaranteed annual is, and then their incentives for performance. And
Yeah.
No.
Not the case here.
good.
Why sponsors become so important, because as a professional, you can only compete in professional events, and they're all international. That's what being a professional means.
Mm-hmm.
It's then the whole world. So you're traveling a lot. Those expenses aren't just covered because you became a pro. So, you know, you try to get a lot of help there. Contract does exist. I have a contract to sign every year with the IFBB, the International Federation of Bodybuilding, just outlining, you know, if I sign the contract in general for the year and agreeing to maybe not compete within rival organizations, you know, that type of thing. Just like that clause would be in any professional athletes. You can't go compete, you know, or fight or play for the other guy while you're here. So that type of thing. And then when I decide to do a show, I don't have to do any shows. There's no obligation to that. I get to decide all of that. I could do every one if I wanted. I would be a wreck and totally exhausted, but I could. So let's say I decide to do a show. I have a contract that they will then sign me for that show in particular. And then that contract will say, if I don't show up to compete after signing it, I get a fine. You know, because if they're advertising that I'm going to be there and that type
Makes
of thing.
sense.
And
performance guarantee.
if I go to the morning show or pre-judging and take part in that and then decide I want to go eat or I'm not happy with what happened, I don't want to show up for the evening show, I can get fined if I don't show up for that. And I think that's all totally fine. Part of being professional, you don't have to have a pro card, you know, to act professional. You should always do those things, you know, like you should always come to night show and that you've made the commitment, you know, and the promoter has put, you know, money into the event and so it doesn't bother me to sign.
With that contract, and this is a good spot to show it too, is you get to be on the cover of some magazines from time to time. And on your website, you've got this great shot done. Hopefully you get compensated for that too. No?
Nope.
It's interesting for people to know. You know?
Actually a lot of people assume that I got paid for that cover, and it doesn't work that way.
No. So this gets to your sponsors because you came prepared to acknowledge them again. This is an important piece of your world. So you want to walk us through your sponsors?
Sure.
That'd be great.
So just recently I signed with Ripped Femme. They're a supplement company focused on women, which is my long-term goals, like aside from competing myself and the stage, is to help other women and to just, you know, try to, you know, reach healthy living together and be there for each other. So
can you say the name again, because it's a word, right?
Ripped Femme.
Ripped Femme. Good. I'm playing a bit, but it's fun. Right away conjures an image, doesn't it?
It's a fit woman, you know. And so their supplements are designed by and for women specifically. So I'm really excited, just getting going with them now. So we'll see how the year goes. I think it's going to be great, though. I have a few long-term sponsors for some years, like maybe from the start would be Shannon Phillips Hairstyling. She just, you know, even though we were kind of laughing about people judging because they see the picture of the tan and you do get judged on it. If you showed up and didn't have like your hair done and it's the whole package needs to be together and as perfect as you can make it.
Well, if you compete 2-3 times a year, they better be your high points. So you don't leave anything undone.
And people like Shannon obviously help me to make sure that I'm always looking good. And let's see, same kind of thing, the Spa 654 Club uptown. That's a newer one for me too, but they've been awesome. You know, the beauty industry does coincide with the fitness industry quite a bit. Aesthetics, right? How you look, and that's just a reality. So they have been awesome. They do my nails, and I got microblading done.
Don't ask this guy about microblading.
Basically, it's tattooing your eyebrow.
Get out.
Yep. So they did that for me.
So that means what when you're 80?
That they'll still be there.
There we go. Good fun. I was just thinking, because there's so many people now with tattoos. Actually, you know, are you allowed to get tattoos given that your performance is your body or your profession is your body?
There are a lot of people who do have tattoos. but it is kind of frowned upon. It's funny because the only tattoo I have is on my
There's the
face.
eyebrows, yeah. Yeah, because there's all kinds of jokes now about tattoos on people now,
Yeah.
and then at some point they're going to be older.
Yeah.
So you might not know of Mad Magazine. Do you remember
Yeah.
Mad Magazine?
Yeah.
So the back piece of art, you know, there's this big piece of art on it, and then you fold A to meet B,
Yep.
and it becomes another picture.
Yeah.
So I always thought someone out there should do a tattoo like that.
Yeah.
So when someone hits
They let
70
go
or
of
80,
this. Yeah.
they can, you know, put it together and stitch it, and then you get a whole new tattoo. It's a little dark, but it's fun. So tattooed eyebrows, authentic.
Yeah. But for stage, tattoos are considered distracting
Yeah.
while they're trying to judge, so they prefer skin that doesn't have any.
Sure, of
Yeah.
course. 'Cause
Or they
it's-
cover them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a product that they can cover them.
Okay, because I always thought of your sport or some of the other ones, it's about the statue, you know,
Mhm.
it's more that Greek
Yeah.
model. That,
And you can't see as much definition if you have like a full sleeve or something.
yeah, okay, good.
Let's see, who else do we have?
Keep going.
Dr. Flynn, she's my chiropractor at
Okay.
Body Renewal.
So here's someone who works out regularly, would
Yep.
include stretching, I would assume.
Yep.
And you need a chiropractor.
Yeah, just even working, the repetition of, you know, like cutting and sewing, like being on the computer,
Okay.
working out, you know, any
You're right.
repetitive sort of movements kind of can get us out of alignment.
Your
My
other two
posing,
jobs. Yes.
posing practice.
Because posing isn't natural standing,
No,
is it? It's
no.
exaggerated.
It's kind of painful actually, yeah. So you work on your endurance and being able to look natural while you do it, but none of the categories have poses that are easy to hold, and you're usually twisting and not standing in a natural stance. So she fixes me right up.
And smiling the whole time you're doing it, aren't
Oh yeah,
you?
And especially bikini, we're judged on the routine and how effortless we look. So yeah,
Fascinating.
she helps me to be able to be
Good.
better there.
Good.
Miami Tanning,
Hmm.
they hook me up with spray tans, and they've been a sponsor of mine from day one, before any of the more recent success. And
Yeah.
Victory Meat Market I mentioned,
Yeah.
and Good Eyes Eggs, so local guys. I eat a lot of eggs,
Yeah, that's
especially
great.
during prep.
Really?
So I could eat 8 eggs a day. So thank
No
goodness for
cholesterol
them.
worries?
Well, I take the yolks out.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
great, good.
Yeah. So they help me out a lot.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
And-
thank
and
you for letting me mention them.
Yeah, and thanks for them helping this all happen, because there's a team with you,
Yes.
helping support and seeing a long vision
Yeah.
to get somewhere. And but walk us back into the locker room or the changing room behind the curtain. So you eat 8 eggs a day to get ready. I'm playing, and you have to get sprayed a certain way.
Yep.
And now the posing stuff. And then after that, I want to ask, what's it like to walk up on that stage? Because there's got to be a vulnerability with it, as well as
Absolutely.
all the prep that goes, and it is a sport, and it is professional, but there's, you know, the hockey players, the football players put on 15 pounds, 12 pounds worth of equipment before they go out. You put on a couple ounces of equipment before
Yeah.
you go out. It's a whole other human experience.
And asking someone to judge you physically.
Yeah.
And there are things that you can't change about yourself sometimes, you know? It doesn't matter how many times you go to the gym.
Right.
There will be things, you can't change your bones,
Yeah.
you know, your bone structure.
Yeah, you'll never be 6 foot.
Right, yeah. Luckily I like being short, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's
invite us into the back there. What's it like?
backstage.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I have more positive experiences now as a professional, even though you could say there's more on the line than as an amateur. There seems to be this kind of respect amongst all the pros, like everyone, you're not just given it, you know, you have to do a certain amount of shows, kind of, you know, like at the national level, you have to be awarded it, and that's every competitor that's a professional has done that and achieved that. So there's this respect. Everyone's great, you know, if your hair's messed up, they'll fix it, you know, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
If your tan is messed up and you don't know, they'll be like, hey, you know, like you better go check your...
Missed a spot.
Yeah, missed a spot or got water on it or something,
Okay.
yeah. Whereas an amateur at the backstage, it's a little more tense,
Okay.
yeah. everyone's still trying to, make their way and
Trying to get there.
and yeah, prove themselves.
Okay, so teach us about poses a bit,
Mhm.
because you talked about how you have to contort almost or
Yeah.
exaggerate.
Yep.
So you have 5 set poses, 3 set poses, 10. You get to free flow it.
Mm-hmm.
Which?
As it's different as an amateur than as a pro. The amateurs have a set number of poses they have to do.
Okay.
Front, side, back, side, front again. But as a professional, we don't really have those rules. We can stand whichever way we like. Our hips can be turned to whichever way we find most flattering for ourselves. And our only rules is we have a front pose and we have a back pose, and then we have to walk to the back curtain, and then we have to turn around and come back. So that's the only rules we really have.
Really?
Our individual routine can be as long as we want it to be. Yeah.
So what would a routine entail then? Go ahead, have a drink and stuff. I'm trying to picture, suddenly walking becomes something very hard to do instead
Yeah.
of it's simple, like going to the corner store.
Yeah.
You know? So you literally put together a routine
Yeah.
that, so it'd be like a Dancing with the Stars,
Yep.
or some of the fitness people do like an aerobics jazzercise thing sometimes.
Mhm. Everything is rehearsed.
Yeah. So every
If-
turn,
Every turn, every look. If a girl is moving her hair, she has practiced moving her hair.
Really?
Yeah. For as long as you, let's say you prepare physically for 3 months, that whole time you're also doing posing practice the entire time too.
How long is that? You said pros can do it to their own length, but typically it'd be 30 seconds, a minute,
Yeah.
a minute and a half.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Okay, but it's not 5 minutes, right?
No,
You-
that would get awkward.
Brutal.
And then yeah.
Is there music with this?
Just whatever they decide to play, like house
Okay.
music.
So you
plays
don't
and-
have that.
No choice.
So then what?
Unless you're a bodybuilder or women's physique.
Okay.
They do routines to music.
So to win, then,
Mhm.
what do you need to show off in order to win? What do you need to amplify or make sure the judges see?
Hmm.
Wha- wha-
For my
What's the
category?
what's the
Yeah.
winning formula?
Well, we did touch on some of it. So effortless movements and routine, confidence is a big one. You can't come out looking shy or like you're nervous. You just have to bury that if you are nervous.
Yeah.
Usually by that point you've got that kind of figured out now. Like you don't get as nervous as you used to, but
Yeah.
and then physically they're looking for the things you can't, like flawless tan.
Okay.
Suit, does it complement your features and your hair and all of that? Is it distracting? And then physically, okay, are you lean enough? Are you too lean? Are you balanced? They really like upper body, lower body balance and front to back balance.
Okay. So
So-
symmetry.
Yeah, a lot of symmetry from all angles as you turn around.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you'd be like the Academy Awards statuette in a way.
Yeah.
It's quite similar. We have about 3 or 4 minutes left, and there's a topic I'd like to slide into, which is
Yeah.
some of, not gender stuff, but more, and not sexism stuff, but there is an outside perception of your sport
Hmm.
that isn't sincere or genuine to your sport. So, and yet you're on the inside of your sport and you live it every day.
Yeah.
So you deal with the comments, you deal with the feedback and stuff. What's it like to live on that? It's not a razor's edge, but it's a balancing between your sport puts you out there,
Yeah.
and you prep for it professionally, and you've attained that high level.
Mhm.
How many are there in Canada even?
Professionals?
Yes,
Oh.
in your category,
I'm not sure. There wouldn't be a ton. Yeah.
5, 10.
But the Australian one, there was just myself and another Canadian
Yeah.
that were invited for a bikini.
So you're one of a very few.
Well, we'll see if
Yeah.
we can keep it going. But
Okay, so can you speak to what that's like a bit as female fit professional
Mhm.
to wanting proper recognition for your work?
You can't.
Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, because it has been a struggle, over the years. People, for instance, on Facebook will make comments and whatnot, and you have to grow a very thick skin
Okay.
in different senses. Like when the judges give you feedback, like the vulnerability part you were talking about. You're walking out in this little bikini saying, "Judge me physically," and then I'm going to go to you later and say, okay, now tell me what isn't great about me physically, so you can improve on it. I lost my train of thought there.
Well, it was about comments on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
Outsiders' perceptions.
And any kind of negativity that might.
Because it's exceptional. People aren't used to exceptional. So how do we help them get over that?
Just realizing that there's a whole part of, the biggest part of this, no one sees. All the training and the diet is not any different than any other athlete in the world. What they do, you know, in the gym or for their training is specific to their goals. What they eat is specific to their goals, and this is all the same. Ours just happens to be wrapped up in a sparkly bikini. Instead of with a hockey stick or something like that.
Baseball bat or football. Great.
But it's, I don't really know the answer. It's,
but
just trying to be open-minded, I guess, asking people to just understand there's more to it. Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. The Dennis Report is an independent TV production, and we are asking for your support through Patreon. If you go to my website, www.denisatchison.com, and click the Patreon icon, that would be great, and that would help us produce more shows and more technical improvements and more advertising. Thanks for watching, and as always, be good, have fun, and love each other.